Recording in progress.
Review, discussion, recommendation of ordinances. A, review river safety ordinance. Now, you guys there? Lauren, I think you got to mute somebody.
Yeah, I don't know where that's coming from.
Hang on 1 second. Let me get him.
Okay.
Okay, he's muted. You're good.
Review river safety ordinances. I had, obviously when we put this in place, we decided it was going to be a fluid document. We're going to, change it. We just wanted to get some things in place. I had a discussion with the sheriff yesterday, and they said that they had some recommendations as it pertained to making the any business that operates under that capacity to put identifiers on their inner tubes themselves. If they just get a stencil and put, with the name of their business on it. But, we're not going to, that's something we'll bring up in discussion, but obviously we're going to make that change pretty quick. But in discussing things with a couple of the board members, we're going to go ahead and I'm in line to we just go ahead and recommend and not changing as it gets brought up for public discussion tonight during the meeting. So that's what I have. Any of you guys have anything further?
No, I don't.
I see the strikeout on E. I don't. So that is from the other. That I don't remember that part.
I don't either.
We, Sandy and I had a miscommunication when we were listening to y'all. Y'all kind of bounced around a lot. So E now states, and I'll send y'all the corrected document, signage along the river shall be installed and purchased by the business operator for safety purposes, which is what it said. Y'all just have the wrong document.
Gotcha.
Okay, so basically, what we do have in the regular packet, Lauren, we do have the amendments that we have to, after Sandy reads it by title, we've got to amend what was introduced and then adopt it as amended. Is that correct?
Yes, but because you guys have already discussed the amendments before you introduced it, I think Sandy's just going to read the ordinance into record, so y'all don't have to vote twice. She sent out an email. I don't know if y'all had responded to that, but I think that's how we're going to do it.
Okay. I just want to make sure. All right. So everybody, I'm in favor of how it, if as long as the strikeout on E is corrected in the parts as part of the record, then I'm good with what we're going to go with tonight. Everybody else feeling the same way?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then y'all don't have to vote.
This is a review, so we don't have to vote. So, it's any discussion from the audience? Okay. Item B, further discussion and review of impact fee ordinance.
Okay.
Mr. Mack?
Shane is not here, just his computer is. I spoke with him earlier. Let me read what he said. We couldn't get the audio from last meeting to work, so we were unable to review the questions that Gary had. So he wants to, we'll let everyone know we should have a final draft for next ordinance meeting, not tonight.
Okay. Hey, everybody else good?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Item C, further discussion of load limits on parish roads. I haven't taken point on this one, so I don't know where we're at with that.
Okay, I
know that I guess the DPW had came to us about some recommendations that they had. This was a request that came from administration, not us, so to speak. So, Lauren, did you have that, what they were requesting?
Right. Mr. Sam wanted to implement a load limit on all parish roads, either 5,000 tons per axle, I think.
5 tons.
5 tons per axle.
What is the current, you know?
Well, state law basically is if you have 5 axles, you can weigh 80,000. and you can weigh, if you've got a tag, a 6 or whatever, you can weigh 84, 86, something like that, 85, something in that neighborhood. And then a tandem, if I'm not mistaken, or a 3-axle truck tandem would be 25 tons, which is 50,000. So I mean, 5,000 pounds an axle would basically mean that a 18-wheeler or a gravel truck with, 5 axles would be limited to 25 tons, which would be 50,000 pounds, which is 30,000 pounds less than they can haul legally on a state highway. So the problem is if they load and then or travel down state highways and hit a parish road, they're technically in violation of law. So I think we need to probably, look at a more, if we've got roads that we want to keep trucks off of, then we can make them a no truck route. But we probably need to get the weight limit more in tune with, what the state law is, I would suspect, because I think we're building our roads ought to be built to standard to meet that, especially the new ones that we've been overlaying. So, I mean, let's say, for example, I'm hauling a load of gravel down, to Verdon, so to speak, and I exit at South Satsuma. Well, I've been on the interstate with an 80,000 pound load and I'm legal. And then when I hit South Satsuma, if we've got a 5-ton per axle limit, then I'm stuck at 50,000. I'm 30,000 overweight. Did we not build Satsuma up to the standard that it would be a state road or I think those are some of the questions that need to be answered. So, I think we need to come up with a max weight limit, and then if there are roads that we want to put a restriction on, we can restrict them. But I think 5 tons of axle is going to create some problems for certain vehicles that haul within the parish. That's all.
I see your point. Where there would be a road that the only way you can get something down there. Now, I mean, you like South Satsuma, I get what you're saying. It's a good example, but in another way it isn't, because if South Satsuma is bad, wherever you're going there, unless it's off of South Satsuma, you could go around on state roads. So yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I mean, I would like to know, if we can set something a little more restrictive, and then just pick the roads that we're that's in good shape, but not necessarily great, and they're being tore up. Yeah, I agree with you on that. We can get that information and try to work through that a little bit better. I kind of agree with you on that, Gary. I do want to protect the roads that are there, and I do know that there's probably some overloaded trucks on some roads that it don't need to be on. But I want to make sure we're just not, being too heavy-handed here. I don't have a problem being heavy-handed at times, but I don't want to be over the top either.
Well, look, like people say, I mean, my gas trucks, typically weigh almost 80,000 pounds when they leave the refinery. I don't know that I've got a customer within the parish that doesn't technically really reside on the state highway. I started trying to figure out what stores I might, and pretty much all of them, I've got, I don't think I really have any that are parish roads. I mean, they got parish names, but I mean, they're typically state maintained highways.
Sure.
Look, there's probably times I can tell you if I'm going to a store down 1019 somewhere, there's a good chance that I'm going to hit part of the parish maintained part of Old 16. And if I'm, depending on how I'm going there, I would hate to think that, we went to a 5-ton limit on an axle and I'm legal coming up Highway 16 and then I'm illegal for a stretch of parish road and then I'm legal again on 1019. So I just think we need to make it, we need to look at that. I mean, I personally, my trucks could fix, resolve those issues and just, change routes, but I'm just wondering about, some of these other vehicles that make deliveries and stuff if we don't need.
Well, what he's requested might be closer to correct than what we know, but at the same time, I would like to get a little bit more information on this. How about you guys?
Yeah, I think you're right, Tracy. More information would help us a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
these newly overlaid roads are some of the ones that they're trying to protect to keep them from getting in the same shape that they were in before.
And I'm okay with that. You know, I'm okay with that. I just want to make sure we're not, we don't create another problem.
Right.
By
I talked to Steve about this yesterday, and main concern, like you said, is roads like Harris Road that's just been overlaid, Helen Hood Road that's just been overlaid. He's trying to protect those roads to keep them from getting back in the same shape they were in before.
Look, we can do that, even if we have to just single those roads out with a weight limit, and
yeah.
Well, I think the original part of this ordinance was to create a parish-wide weight limit, and we can do that, and then we can go back and start restricting roads if we want to, and it gives them the opportunity to post weight limit signs on them. But I think the initial thought of restricting, weight limit on parish roads to 25 tons is going to be overly cumbersome on a lot of business enterprises and some other things within the parish that, probably we need to look at a more uniform deal that coincides with the state law, and then we can go back, and if there's Helen Hood doesn't go anywhere but to a subdivision. There's no need for a truck need to be on the song gun. So it'd be easily to restrict the weight limit on that on Helen Hood. Yep. Am I right, Bubba?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I understand what they're trying to do. I just want to make sure we're not overreaching on this in the sense where we create a whole bigger problem, or another problem, let's just say. So, how about, I think we should just defer this until the next meeting. What you guys think?
Well, Lauren's got her hand up.
Lauren, go ahead. Sorry.
So the current ordinance actually says there is hereby established a load limit of 10,000 pounds on the parish roads and highways of this parish. So the ordinance is super outdated from like 83, and I don't know if that was a verbiage mess up back in the day. And then there's some that are limited, some roads that are limited to 5 tons per axles, 5 tons, 10 tons, and then 20 tons. So we already have kind of a list going.
So if, in other words, if we set a parish standard and then we work on individual roads, that'd be the best way to do it.
Yes, because the parish standard right now is 10,000 pounds.
Boom.
So I just wanted to throw that out.
A bunch of us are breaking the law every day, so it's obviously antiquated and nobody's enforced it because doesn't make sense. So we definitely need to fix that.
Correct. We'll fix it. All
right. So we're gonna just put it off until the next meeting.
Yeah, I think we need to look at Tracy. I just think we need to look at some specifics about how state laws written with respect to axle weights, and is there a different weight standard for combination axles? And try to come up with some numbers that work for us in the parish, and then we can go start restricting. I mean, we could restrict a particular type of truck to a road, which would automatically decrease the weight. And so I think that we just need to do a little research on how state law is written, and then kind of mirror it to a certain extent. And then we can go restricting.
Agreed. Yeah. Agreed.
All right.
There's one other thing we can look at, and I don't know, is roads that have bridges on them. They're going to have weight limits on the bridges too. So maybe that would hit in that road.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. And look, you could put a different weight limit for the bridge. So, anyone who lives on this side of the bridge, you can be at this limit, but you got to be at a lower limit to be on the bridge. And, what, Scooter?
And we do have
turning around and things would make it difficult. So it really, we need to just, be kind of hard to break it up.
Yeah, but I mean, not really.
It makes sense. It sounds like it does. So let's look and see what the problem would be with it.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Item D, further discussion on detention ponds. I have been in discussion with the parish attorneys, and they said there's a way forward as far as, on this aspect of it, creating the tax, like a district for the new development, if they have a retention pond, in order to have them be self-sustained money-wise for that future development and the money and the fees come directly from that development and that development only. So, he said we had to be creative on how we do it, because you kind of run into do you do a millage? We might have to go to the state and see if we can set up something that way. We might not be able to do it as it is right now. We might have to get permission, or at least something in state and at the state legislature to make it happen. But he said, he's looking at it. So, that's all I really have on that at the moment. There's, how it is. It's kind of slow sometimes. It's not as easy as that.
Right.
So, as far as the requiring the servitude, where we said 25 foot, I don't see how that would be an issue, other than we can just make that happen. You guys, we can put that through if we wanted to. We could try to do it like we're doing the river safety ordinance. But other than that, you guys got anything else to add?
No, I don't believe.
Not at this time, Tracy, but I think as we get further along on this thing, I think there's some information.
How do you guys feel about just bringing that forward too, and then add to it, or do you want to just hold off on that as well? Or
no, I think one of the important things on this thing is to decrease the total outflow, meaning that we're trying to get them to net neutral right now, and we probably need to look for at least a 25% reduction. And then we need to get some wording that basically doesn't use the best case scenario. I don't know how to go about, addressing that, but we don't need everything to be the best case scenario, so that, we end up with, everything to the positive of the developer and not to the benefit of the parish as a whole. So I don't know how to go about getting that. I did have an engineer call me after our last meeting and discuss my comment about driver retention. And it's a twofold issue that he wanted to address, but he did talk about the fact that wet retention has some benefits in the fact that you have control of the water level and you have the ability to pump them down. You create additional additional capacity. In dry retention, you're not going to be able to create additional capacity. He also talked about how some dry retention ponds really are dry, but the bottom usually ends up being wet, so they end up with lack of maintenance in the bottom, and then you end up with trees growing and other issues. And he said, he just recommended that I not have a closed mind, and that's why I'm kind of sharing with y'all, because I thought dry retention was definitely the way to go. And he talked about some possible benefits of how wet retention could create additional capacity, and in some ways it's easier to maintain because the water does a lot of the work for you in keeping vegetation beat down and stuff. So, I guess I had said earlier that it needed to be dry, and I guess that I'm just letting you know that I'm not completely sold on that. I don't like the fact that we're using them for lakes, and we probably ought to change the design standard so that they're not so, it's not so beneficial to make them lakefront property. But at the same time, them holding water is not the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah,
based on some comments and some other information.
And they could still kind of use it that way, as long as they know there's a 25-foot servitude, and you need to put a fence in that can be removed.
Well, yeah, and I guess is I'm just looking at from a homeowner point of view. If I go buy a piece of property that goes up against this retention pond, and I'm thinking I've got this waterfront property, and then 5 years down the road, the parish determines, or the revenue district determines, that we need to lower the water level on that thing 2 feet, on an ongoing basis. That's the concern I have, is that looking at some of these subdivisions as they exist now, if we went and did that to some of them, it would be kind of devastating to some pieces of property. So I just want to get away. I want to figure out how to get away from making retention ponds waterfront property when people buy lots, and that's the whole reason. And is because there's going to come a point in time when you might need to address how the the level of the pond, and then you create a big mud bank for somebody that they'd have known that was a possibility, they might have done something different. That's my only thought process on it.
Yeah.
And I agree, but not to be like a broken record, but we have an issue with this across the parish, and and that's a whole other thing we need to tackle as far as how do we get in even if we could, and even if they gave it these areas that most retention ponds and subdivisions are private property, but it's creating a problem for the citizens there. But more, I guess, to my point, I don't. If we put the restrictions on future development, then the people there should know that this is the way it's going to be. They will know, and even if they wanted to put a fence up in the servitude, then it needs to be one that can be taken down with relative ease. That way we can get in. I don't have a problem with them fencing up 25 foot of your backyard is a lot in a lot of these, garden top style communities. It could be half your backyard. And, I don't really necessarily have a problem, but putting a permanent fence structure down, I have a problem with that. You can put one down that looks permanent, but then you can pull it up. So, but anyway, more of the point, I guess, on all this is that, as far as, creating a district to have that's funded, whether we go with pumps to pump it down and, we create a revenue stream that comes just from that development, from its residents. In order to do that, it's going to take some work. So that's where I'm at on that part. And we're working on it. So anything else?
Nope, I don't think.
Anything from the audience? Okay. All right. I think, did you have anything that you wanted to add for any guys? Scooter, didn't you say you wanted to put something on? Are you still working on that? Or
On which thing?
the next ordinance committee?
Well,
Tracy,
I know
you got a letter.
Well, okay. Let's go to item 3. Item 3 is new business, review and discussion, and recommendations of ordinances. We don't have anything right now, so I guess now is the time if you wanted to say
what we
something.
did have. Is that what you're doing, Gary?
Tracy, you got a packet with you? Were you able to get a packet?
Yeah.
Okay, so you saw the letter from DPW from Mr. Myers?
Yes. Hang on, but go ahead and just fill me in while I'm looking at it up here.
There's two changes. One is there's some wording on the abandoned motor vehicle deal. Basically, they feel that right now that if somebody goes and you can leave a car somewhere for 11 months,
yes,
9 days, and go move it for a day and then bring it back, and their 12-month period starts over. So they want some wording change along those lines. And then on the grass, they want to make it 8 inches. And I'm gonna tell you, I got some property right now. Sometimes 8 inches is tough to do if it rains a lot. So, but we need to find some height so that when we talk about grass that needs to be cut, there's some legal measurement they can go out and make, and it's not arbitrary, within the ordinance that doesn't have a definite height situation.
I think 8 inches is a little strict. I mean, look, if it's 8 inches, you do need to mow your grass, but
you don't need DPW out there writing you a letter. I mean, you need it. I think it maybe 12 inches or something like that. It might become a different issue. The problem is what is grass and what is pasture and some other things. So, we'll have to, but I think we can come up with some height. We're going to have to exempt some stuff. If you're in the hay growing business or something, you got to exempt it.
Tracy, I got some stuff. So I talked to Brian Myers with compliance, and I talked to Glenn Lemoyne today with compliance. And right now, it just says tall grass and weeds. So they're not going to go out and if you're 8.5 inches grass, and give you a bunch of mess over it. And the deal is they're not going out looking for this. This has to be complaint driven for compliance to go out and even mess with people on their grass height. But with nothing in there on a height wise, they go, well, I think it's a little too long, too high. That doesn't work. So they just want us to put something in place so that they'll have an ordinance that can be enforced. Same thing on the motor vehicles.
Okay.
Scooter,
Look, I'm open for what, 10 inches, 8 inches, 8 inches. I'm with you, but anytime you leave something, I guess the idea of it being vague was trying to kind of make people mow their grass, but they're not going to do it if it says too high, because you're right. I mean, what is too high?
Well, that's what he said. That's what,
So, but
my
I mean,
other
8
thing is
inches.
that, is this for inside of subdivisions or all over the parish?
Well, from what I read, it said subdivisions, did it not?
I think it says,
I'm doing fine. I got a missed call I got a missed call from Concy. You around?
What's that, Randy?
he don't know he's on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, how you doing, bro?
Yeah, it says subdivisions and or all other properties, including established businesses and residences. So it applies to everybody in the entire parish. That's probably outside, in the unincorporated areas. I think if we make it too high, it's going to be the same thing. They're not going to go out and nickel and dime people over 2 inches too high. If they get a complaint and they go out and it is actually a problem, then they will cite them and give them time to fix it. So I think 8 inches would work. If they were going out looking for this, 8 inches would be too low, because if it rains for 2 weeks, it's taller than that in my yard.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's the problem I've got. Is I definitely have some spots in my yard that definitely get 10, 12 inches before you can cut them. And
just like that. Yep.
Well, in some places you have low spots.
And
You have low spots,
I
and you
agree.
can't get to it because you get to it when it dries out. And I've had spots I couldn't mow for. Well, I actually went out there with a push mower, but a lot of people don't have that option to go out there and push mow those spots. So.
I still have those spots now, and it hadn't rained in a month.
Yeah.
But I think.
But to be fair, mine
hadn't
made 8 inches yet. I mean, I don't think. Look, I'm okay with 8 inches, but I'm also understanding with it being that at certain times that could be. So
yeah, and they're going to use total discretion on this. They're not going to go out and say, "Look, your neighbor called in because your grass is too high. It's totally wet out here. You can't cut it." We're not going to give you a citation or give you 15 days. Just get it as soon as you can. And he said they're going to work with every person. That they're all retired police or things like that. They've worked with people their whole lives. They know how they need to handle this stuff.
well, that's something we can take up at the next ordinance committee meeting.
Yeah,
I agree.
it wasn't actually on the agenda, but we needed to start talking about it. Feel.
Another thing too was I think the ordinance that we put in place about parking on the road in subdivisions. I think we're having where you can't park on the road in these developments because it's blocking, it's creating a hazard.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have an issues where people park trailers, like you pull your like you got some 4-wheelers on it, or you got a covered trailer. People are parking those on the road. It's not actually covered under the ordinance. So we need to figure out, do we say, hey, this goes for any wheeled vehicle?
Well, I don't know, and I think that's going to be at the discretion of the sheriff too. They're going to go, well, you're going to be here for 3 hours,
No, because our ordinance, I understand the ordinance. I didn't get a chance, but I just got this brought to my attention today. It just says vehicles.
Period. So that's not a vehicle.
Yeah. And we have situations where people are parking, their trailers out in the road. And remember the main reason I was for this ordinance, or the original ordinance, was because it's a safety issue.
Right.
Some people are parking on the sidewalks, so really if you shouldn't be able to park anything in the road, whether it's a trailer, a car, a roll-off dumpster. I mean, in my opinion, if you're in some of these tight neighborhoods, you shouldn't be able to park on the road. But right now, the sheriff's department is they can't really do anything about it. So, I think we need to address that. And you guys put the next meeting, we'll put that in there.
On there.
So, that's what I got for now. How about you guys?
I'm good.
All right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right. Motion by Mr. Talbert.
My second.
Second by Mr. Harris. All in favor, say aye. All right.
Hey guys, real quick,
turn.
are we go?
Go ahead.
Hey,